Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating roadmap to ultimate spiritual liberation. We're going to look deep into Volume 26 of the Mahayana Mahaparinirvana Sutra, specifically focusing on the 5 profound stepping stones, or meritorious practices, that lead a bodhisattva straight to great nirvana. If you've ever wondered exactly how these ancient texts break down the journey of spiritual awakening into actionable, progressive steps, well, you are definitely in the right place.
Right off the bat, the source text gives us a highly structured, step-by-step roadmap. The Buddha actually states that for any bodhisattva striving to achieve the subtle and wondrous state of great nirvana, the journey is anchored by exactly 5 foundational practices. So this isn't just some vague, mystical wandering, right? It is a precise psychological and spiritual curriculum.
So here is the 5-pillar framework we're going to unpack today. 1. Faith. 2. Straightforward mind. 3. Pure precepts. 4. Good friends. 5. Extensive hearing. And finally, 6. The path toward nirvana.
All right, pillar number 1, faith, the unbreakable foundation.
Now, the sutra defines faith not as some blind leap into the unknown, but as an absolute, unbreakable trust in the ultimate truth. We're talking about an unshakable belief in the 3 jewels, which are the Buddha, his teachings, and the spiritual community. It also means trusting the reality of karmic cause and effect, and the one vehicle, that singular, unified path to enlightenment. According to the text, this foundational trust is so profoundly strong, no worldly influence, no celestial being, no demon could ever destroy it. It is literally the bedrock upon which every other spiritual practice is built.
Moving right along to number 2, straightforward mind, which is all about radical empathy and honesty. Building on that rock-solid faith, we see this really fascinating shift away from a conventional mindset towards radical bodhisattva empathy. A worldly mind, is always super quick to point out the faults of others, but the straightforward mind, it intentionally conceals those flaws to protect people. And why? Well, the sutra explains that pointing out someone's faults causes them distress and vexation, and that can actually push them further into negative states or evil realms. Honestly, it's an exercise in supreme emotional intelligence.
So the crucial takeaway here is that instead of criticizing, you completely pivot. The text emphasizes praising the inherent Buddha nature within absolutely everyone, even if they're just doing minor good deeds. By actively praising that potential, you act as this powerful catalyst. You're helping to awaken their ultimate spiritual potential, their desire to achieve supreme enlightenment.
But hold on a second, because while you are hiding others' faults, you've got to be ruthlessly honest about your own. Internally, a straightforward mind demands absolute transparency. You never conceal your mistakes. You instantly confess them to your teachers or peers, with zero ego. You feel a sense of productive shame, and you recognize that these faults stem from your own internal afflictions, totally separate from the teachings themselves. It's this incredible pairing of radical outward empathy with radical internal accountability.
Pillar number 3, pure precepts, or setting boundaries without ego.
Okay, so with our internal compass set, we now bring these states into our physical reality. The sutra strictly warns against what we might call conditional precepts, basically transactional morality. It explicitly calls out these extreme ascetic practices from that time period where people would literally imitate dogs or chickens or cows, hoping that all that extreme suffering would somehow buy them a ticket to heaven. Bodhisattva precepts, on the other hand, are upheld completely without pride, without fear, without seeking any sort of worldly or heavenly gain. It's all about maintaining boundaries simply because it is the pure, right way to exist, totally free of ego.
All right, on to number 4, good friends, focusing on spiritual guides and community. Now, a true good friend in this context isn't just a buddy you grab coffee with who validates your feelings. The sutra defines them as a master spiritual guide, someone who possesses the exact piercing wisdom needed to expertly dismantle your very specific, deep-rooted psychological and karmic barriers. They know exactly how to pull you away from your own destructive habits.
The text points to the Buddha himself as the ultimate good friend, and it gives us 3 really famous historical examples. He instantly extinguished the extreme lust of his brother Nanda, the extreme anger of the notorious serial killer Angulimala, and the extreme ignorance of King Ajatasattu. The Buddha didn't just give them some generic, one-size-fits-all lecture. He provided the exact, tailored intervention that each of them needed to break their specific chains.
To really drive this point home, the sutra recounts this brilliant little anecdote about the danger of a well-meaning but completely misguided friend. A prominent disciple once taught meditation to a goldsmith and a washerman. He gave the goldsmith breathing exercises and the washerman a meditation on bones. And guess what? They both failed miserably. The Buddha had to step in and point out the error. Think about it. A goldsmith who is constantly blowing on fire should obviously do breath counting. A washerman who is constantly cleaning filth should do the bone contemplation. True skillful means requires deeply understanding the individual.
Which brings us to Pillar 5, extensive hearing, the expansion of wisdom.
This is the true culmination of spiritual education. Extensive hearing means deeply immersing yourself in the teachings. We're talking reading the sutras, actually copying the texts down, and, this is crucial, explaining these teachings to others. It's about thoroughly absorbing the eternal nature of the Buddhist wisdom. But, as we're about to see, this final pillar actually holds a really profound philosophical twist.
And here is the ultimate paradox. The absolute pinnacle of extensive hearing, of learning literally everything there is to know about the teachings, is the sudden realization that the Dharma, the teaching itself, has no fixed, rigid nature. True extensive learning ultimately leads you straight to realizing the fundamental emptiness of all concepts.
I absolutely love this quote, because it beautifully captures the essence of that emptiness. Although the Tathagata, meaning the Buddha, speaks all dharmas, he constantly preaches no dharma. This completely shifts your mindset as a practitioner. You move away from treating spiritual teachings as rigid facts you need to acquire, and instead, you grasp this absolute, unattached, flowing wisdom. The concepts are just a raft. You know, once you cross the river, you don't carry the raft on your back.
Finally, Section 6, the path toward nirvana, the grand culmination.
So let's just zoom out for a second and look at how this all comes together. You can clearly trace this beautiful, logical journey of inner transformation. We start by anchoring the mind with unbreakable faith. Then we refine our emotional world by viewing everyone around us through a radically empathetic, straightforward mind. We structure our physical actions by maintaining pure precepts without ego. We ensure we stay on track by relying on the skillful means of good friends. And then finally, we transcend even the teachings themselves through the realization of emptiness in extensive hearing.
As we wrap up this explainer on the profound insights of the Mahaparinibbana Sutra, I want to leave you with a final thought to maybe spark your own journey. Remember, this path isn't just ancient history, it's a living practice. So, which of the 5 Bodhisattva practices, faith, straightforward mind, pure precepts, good friends, or extensive hearing, will you actively cultivate today to awaken your own Buddha nature? Thank you so much for exploring this remarkable roadmap with me.